Welcome to Conversations with the Unseen. My name is Andy.
And my name is Laura. And in December 2019, we began an amazing and completely unexpected journey, conversing with beings from the unseen world, which has totally transformed our lives.
And here we are, after hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversations, doing what our non-physical friends have been encouraging us to do, sharing their message with others who may be interested.
So let's dive in.
Hello, dear friends.
Hello, Mexicans.
As always, we appreciate the opportunity to share our perspective in this way.
It's wonderful to co-create in this way. And so what would you share with us in this moment, Mexicans?
We would speak about vibration and our perspective, which may be different from how humans perceive this aspect. And so many would understand vibration to be something physical. And when vibration is lower, when the frequency is lower, there is a physical experience. And as vibration rises, increases, raises its frequency, it moves from physical into non-physical. And so that being the case, it is a natural conclusion to reach that the human perspective, which is physical, is a lower frequency, a lower vibration. And the inner being, the non-physical self, is at a higher vibration. And one of the reasons for choosing to have a physical experience is for contrast and for the experience of temporarily becoming what you are not in order to rediscover what you really are. The human experience of fear and other lower vibration energies or experiences is something that is necessary for this journey of remembering and rediscovering and to experience who you really are in a new way, in an expanded way. The vibration of the human character, the human self, that is offering who you really are, the experience of this physical realm, apparently physical, with its lower vibrations, within a range, is changing constantly. And this is noticeable by the human self through the emotions. The human self sometimes feels uncomfortable emotions, fear, despair, hopelessness, or at a milder level, just flat. And at other times, the human self can experience elation, joy, ecstasy, peace, fulfillment, satisfaction. And these are higher vibration experiences of being human. Still lower than the inner being, who you really are. Necessarily so, in order to maintain the experience of the world of form. But nonetheless, there are some differences in vibration for the human self. It is also clear from this that when one is at the lower end of this range, when one is feeling despair or other lower vibration emotions, that one is vibrationally further from who you really are, your true nature, than when experiencing emotions, vibrations at the higher end of the scale for the human. And so in order to connect with the inner being, who you really are, the perspective of your true nature, your true self, it is helpful to have a way of raising one's vibration in order for that connection to be as clear as it possibly can. And it is not that the inner being is not present in those lower vibration experiences. The difference is the human awareness. The human awareness will be much more difficult at the lower vibration level than at the higher vibration level. The inner being is present continuously. And this is not something that the human self needs to passively leave to chance. There are ways in which the human self can raise its vibration. And of course, the emotions would be an indicator of where the vibration is. As you listen to these words, as you become aware of your surroundings, notice what the mind is doing. What is the mind focusing on? It may be that the mind is critical in some way of its surroundings or its current situation. And this, of course, would be aligning with a lower vibration and making connection with the inner being more difficult. It is also possible for the human mind to notice in any situation what there is to appreciate and what could be even enjoyed in the current situation. And in doing so, would feel different, would feel lighter, would have a more pleasing emotion, and would be more able to consciously connect with the inner being, which is who you really are. And so the practice of choosing enjoyment, choosing appreciation, because it is a choice, is, it would seem from our perspective, wisdom.
As I listened to what you shared, what was occurring to me was the experiences that this human self has had, the same situation being aligned
with the ego programs, or being more aligned with the perspective of who I really am, and how it is in that shift of energy that a totally different world opens up, and how this human self used to look for the change to be instantly physical as evidence, and how you've shown me that it all begins in the energy and the vibration that has been chosen.
And so for anyone listening to these words who may be aligned with the perspective of it is difficult to connect with the inner being, there is an intermediate step. It could well be that that is the experience, and that the human self is, in believing that story, manifesting that experience. And so perhaps for the human self to consciously choose to raise its energy, to raise its emotion to something lighter, in order for that connection to be made more easily, even to the extent of knowing what experiences the human self finds enjoyable. Whatever that is, it could be that the human self knows how to feel better. And perhaps there is some way of triggering that feeling. It could be mental exercise. It could be calling to mind experiences that were pleasing at the time, and reliving those experiences in the mind may lift the mood, may raise the vibration. It could be putting oneself in a situation in the present moment of some experience. Listening to music, for example, can lift the human emotions. There could be some physical way of being, perhaps to lay down in a comfortable situation, whatever it might be for the human self. Each will know for themselves how to feel more relaxed and more peaceful, and therefore more able then to connect with that non-physical self.
I'm laughing as I'm listening to you Mexicans, as I recall the number of times that you have said that to me, and yet this human self was focused on, I don't like this, I want this to go away, why is this here? What is wrong with me? Why do I always feel this? Why does this come back? What does this say about me? And actually it took this human self a long time to realise that all of that was just giving momentum and energy to that which I did not desire. And then that realisation that I get to choose the direction that I am focused in. And simply put, I'm either more focused with the programs or I'm more focused with the inner being. And you know that there have been times where this human self has been so aligned with the programs and has really got itself so out of alignment. And so part of the coming back into alignment is being patient, being kind, soothing the human self in the way that you talked about, and also keep looking in the direction of the inner being, knowing that it might just take a little bit of time to come back into balance.
It is often the case that allowing it to change, allowing the vibration to change, is an approach that is more effective than trying to force it. Because trying to force it to happen more quickly, more rapidly, is a lower vibration energy. And so to use a lower vibration energy to try and raise the vibration is, as you say, looking in a direction that the human self is not wanting to go in. And so to relax, to allow the vibration to be where it is and to allow it to rise by focusing on what there is to appreciate and to enjoy what there is to enjoy. So many humans seem to have programs that seem to stand in the way of the enjoyment of being human. And of course others will be so focused on the enjoyment that it becomes attachment or even addiction. And so the energy of allowing and being in alignment with who you really are will mean that the enjoyment is there, and when the enjoyment is not there, there will be no trying to have that enjoyment coming back time and time again. It is a relationship of ease and following the inner being's guidance in order to stay in balance.
And so then the emotions are these wonderful, wonderful indicators that show us in a way that we cannot miss where our energy is. And also what's coming to mind for me is how wrong this human self made itself for feeling what it would call negative emotions. So not only was it having the negative emotion that it didn't like, but then it was judging itself for having the emotion that it didn't like, rather than seeing it as just feedback, information about where the energy was aligned in that moment.
Which is a very effective way of remaining stuck in those emotions. The judgment is the glue that holds the negative emotion in place. And so to see what the human self would call a negative emotion as who you are or some permanent situation is to be aligned with the human perspective of being powerless. And that is what many of the programs create the impression of. As you say, the emotions are indicators of the vibration, the alignment, and constantly change. So one perspective that the human self can often reach when experiencing a lower vibration emotion would be, this will pass, because the energy is ever changing. And the emotions are really just the non-physical aspect of the physical experience. They are the connection to your non-physical self. And in order for that connection to be as pure and open as possible, the human self can take responsibility for how it feels, and therefore can play its part in keeping that communication channel open and the best it can be.
You talk about enjoyment, and this human self has got a feisty ego, and is pretty good at trashing everything in its wake when it's in charge. And it's been such a practice for this human self to learn appreciation, to look in a different direction. And I know that there have been times for this human self where it's like there's nothing to appreciate as its perspective, which of course is just another program. And I notice for me that in these moments, the thing that I was able to connect with was gratitude for the body being breathed. And so you taught me that it can be anything, just anything. And the thing that can really help this human self is when it can't see anything to appreciate, inner being, show me what there is to appreciate in this moment, and just wait for something to come.
The idea of waiting seems like torture to many humans.
Yes.
And yet, there is wisdom in these words, in this approach with the human self, rather pressed on, feeling how it feels, or with the human self, rather hit pause, even for just a few minutes, bring the energy into balance, realign with the perspective of the inner being, and then return to the world of form. And so a practice of pausing and going inside, when possible, when circumstances allow, this we would recommend.
And what would you say to somebody who was listening to this thinking, well, what do I do when circumstances don't allow? What if I'm in the middle of a meeting, or what if I'm with a child that's having a meltdown? What would your response be?
The thing that humans do continuously from the moment they come into form until the moment they depart from the body is breathing. So whatever is going on, the human self is breathing, and how the human self is breathing will have an impact on its energy. And so in those situations of meetings or children misbehaving, as it would seem, there can be an awareness of the breath, perhaps to breathe more deeply, breathe in and out of the belly. And this helps to bring a sense of calmness and connection to who you really are, and will therefore aid the human self with whatever challenge it is facing.
Thank you. I wonder if there's anything else you would say as we draw this to a close.
This conversation, these words, are an example of how the human self can be more loving to itself. And so we would encourage anyone listening to practice the art of being loving to oneself, to allow more appreciation in to the experience of being human, to allow more enjoyment to come to oneself. Remembering, of course, that if the experience that the human is having is not enjoyable, if the physical world is not as one would desire it to be, this is an energetic creation, and so the human self does not need to accept that and can influence through these practices of raising the vibration how the world of form is experienced. And so allow more love to come into your world, and we flow love to you now.
Thank you. I love you, and I am so grateful for you, for these conversations, and for being able to share them in this way.
And we appreciate the opportunity. Until next time.
Until next time.
You've been listening to Conversations with the Unseen.
If you'd like to know when there's a new conversation available, then remember to subscribe and also to share it with others.
If you'd like to have a written transcript of each conversation, then you'll find this on the website conversationswiththeunseen.com.
And if you have a question you'd like us to ask on your behalf, or if you would like to join the mailing list, then you can also do that on the website conversationswiththeunseen.com.
Until next time.